Hey, what's up everyone? I'm Cam. It's been a while. The reason being is because I have been away working a lot actually. And this is what this video is about actually. It's about how I got my dream job. I'll explain that in just a second. And I want to also explain that if I can do it, you totally can as well. I'm 24 years old and also I am a little bit of an idiot.
Hey pal, you just blowing from stupid town?
So if I can do it, I definitely think that you're super capable of doing so. I have a couple of different principles and tactics I want to talk about in this video, but before I go into that, what the actual job is, for a little bit of context, is I work in the rock climbing industry. I actually work for Magnus Midtbø, which, if you're familiar with the climbing industry, he is the biggest climbing YouTuber, ex-pro climber, and he runs a company called Rugby, which is what I work for. I'm like the head of sales and partnerships, so I work with gyms and retailers all across the globe. So seriously, like US, Canada, Europe, Asia, Australia, Africa, like literally everywhere to get products into those gyms, retail stores, whatever. It seriously has been a dream come true. I get to work with a ton of cool creators, athletes, and also I just get to work in the climbing industry, which I've been climbing for almost 5 years now. So being able to mesh what I absolutely love with work has definitely been a blessing for sure. The reason why I want to also talk about this as well is just more recently, I feel like I've been having a lot of conversations with different friends about, you know, their futures, like what's important to them, goals, all that other sort of stuff. So I feel like more than not, I feel like this is even more applicable to just conversations I've been having recently. So what I'll be doing to kind of outline what this video is about is, first off, I'll explain a bit more about, first off, just guiding principles, like how you can actually go about, like, I guess, like figuring out what's important to you in a job or career, whatever that may be. I'll explain how I got the job, because that also is a story in and of itself. And then I'll talk about the tactics used to find a job that you'll actually fall in love with and also to stand out in a really unique way. First up, I'm gonna talk about some guiding principles. So I do think that one of the most important things here is going to be knowing what you actually want. I do think this is half the battle. It's kind of like knowing what the problem is like halfway towards the solution. Same thing here. It's like, if you don't actually know what you want to do, it's going to be a huge hurdle that you're going to have to overcome. And I do think that's fine if you don't know what you want, but I do think it's very important to get an actual grasp as to what your dream career is, like what that actually entails. The example I like to give is that when you're in like the first grade and you're in elementary school and you have that day in school where everyone's talking about what they want to do when they grow up, like a police officer or a firefighter or a nurse or whatever, most people don't actually know like what that actually entails. I feel like the story I hear all the time, funnily enough, from people is how people want to be veterinarians because they love being around animals all day. But then when you realize what a veterinarian actually does, it does not make you want to be a veterinarian. I won't elaborate any further. But anyways, that's just one example. The second thing I want to cover too is that the grass isn't always greener. And what I mean by that is that if you think that you're going to get a dream job or career and it is going to make your life perfect, you are wrong. The reason I want to say this is because truthfully, all your problems just won't go away now that you absolutely love what you do. I do think that no matter what your dream career is, you are going to have problems, and you just have to figure out what problems you're most willing to solve or most okay with solving on a daily basis, right? Again, that's just more or less a reality check, because I do think some people think that it's like, hey, once I do this, then I'll be happy, or once I do this, then everything will be perfect. And it's like, that's just not the case. Like, I absolutely love what I get to do for work, but I do want to make it super clear that there are definitely things that cause headaches on a weekly basis. So just to be entirely clear there, if you do think about it that way, just restructure the way that you do think about it and just understand that you need to find the career that will have problems that you're most willing to solve. I think this will really be my final note here, is that college in school is not always the answer. I want to make this clear, and just from my own personal experience, I went to school for video game design. I'm obviously not doing video game design. And the reason why that's the case is that I do think while college is a good time to explore your options, see what you're into, I do think that more and more often it's becoming less appropriate to actually go to school to do something that you actually care about. It would be ignorant for me to say that it isn't important for certain fields, like if you want to go into law, if you want to be like a doctor, if you want to be an engineer, that is very important to do so. I do think there's a lot of fluff added to school, which isn't totally necessary, but if you want to do those things, it is very important for you to go to school. You are going to need certain like degrees or certificates or whatever that may be. I would say for a majority of other people though that want to get into fields like sales or marketing or design or anything like that, I think it's just way more beneficial for you to do the actual thing or just learn from someone directly, which I'll get into later as to how you can maybe leverage those things. But I do think truthfully that school is just this unnecessary middleman that's actually kind of like stopping your process, or it's stopping your progress earlier on. Like if you leave school, like primary school, like high school, senior year at 18, if someone starts searching for work immediately versus someone that then just waits the extra 4 years when they're like 22, 23 years old, because people are graduating late, let's be honest. That person that just started looking for work immediately when they were 18 is gonna have 4 or 5 years of extra experience on you if you just started working at the end of school, which is, I feel like, pretty obvious to say, but I do think it's just a common misconception that you do need a degree to do a lot of these things that you may be passionate about. Again, I'm in sales. I didn't go to school for business. I've done marketing. I didn't go to school for marketing. People have asked me random marketing terms before. I have no clue what they're talking about, but I can tell you that the reason why I'm confident in doing what I have done is because, and what I'll explain in a little bit, is that I've been able to generate, like almost like 500 million views on Instagram with no marketing experience, and I don't think you need marketing experience to do those things. I've been able to generate, over probably like 1 million in sales for a company, and I have no business background. It's like you don't need to do these things, but what I do think you need is a lot of drive. So I'll just stop there and I'll kind of go into how I actually got the job to begin with. The abridged version of this story is that when I was in college, post-COVID, I was working at Panera, and while I did love it because of my awesome roommate Will, who got me the job, who I still love, I love you, Will, if you're watching this, what I will say is that it definitely showed me that I did not want to work in a food service or like retail or anything like that. I think everyone's had jobs like that. Like I've worked at like a grocery store, retail, like kind of like fast service restaurants, stuff like that. And it kind of showed to me that I did not want to do that for like the rest of my life. What did actually happen is just kind of like a coincidence, was that there was this page I followed on Instagram named Climbers Crag. They were posting a ton of climbing content and they were looking for people to help them out. I had zero experience doing this. I just liked climbing, so I applied, and lo and behold, after a little bit of following up and elbow grease, I ended up striking an internship, which was unpaid. That's totally fine though, and I want to make it clear that like that's actually going to be one of the things I tie into later when it comes to actually like getting a dream job that you do care about. But anyways, got that gig, learned a ton about social media marketing. I actually got laid off from that company, which was very sad at the time, but it actually probably paved the way for some more awesome things to come, which I'll then explain. I've then started my own little business doing videography, video editing, and marketing for personal trainers. That only lasted 6 months, did it for some project work and for some side money while I was still in school. And then I proceeded to work for a buddy's company at the time that was a lead gen agency. So that taught me a lot from, first off, sales was the number one thing. Did a lot of cold calling, warm calls, cold email, actual sales calls on Zoom. But then I did stuff like ops, a little bit of finance, hiring, everything like that. Throughout that whole experience, what then ended up happening is there was a little bit of a falling out towards the end of working for that business. So then what happened was, funnily enough, Climbers Crag, that same business, actually came back to me and offered me a full-time position, which was seriously just a stroke of luck at the time. But something I do want to say, which I thought was super cool, is that I came back to them, worked with them full-time. When I started working for them full-time, Rugni was then one of the clients of that agency. It was a marketing agency, for some context. Rugni then was like, hey, do you want to work for us? And I'm like, yes. So myself and actually the founder of that company then started working for Rugni, and I'm here now. So that is the very abridged version. There was a lot of like little details that I'll kind of go into now as to like the actual tactics that I used to not only start from working at Panera with no real like work experience past working in like restaurants, retail, like everything like that. That was the first step. And then now I'm doing, again, head of partnerships in sales at a rock climbing company within the span of 4 years. So I'd like to think that that's a pretty fast on-ramp. And to be entirely clear, by the way, too, I went to school for video game design. So again, I did not have like any proper experience doing these things, but I do want to kind of go through some of these tactics that I do think were incredibly beneficial in helping me get to where I am today. So without dragging on too much longer, first things first, shoot your shot. What I mean by this, and everyone's heard this phrase before, but what I do mean is even if it sounds delusional, still shoot your shot. So if that's applying for a job, talking to someone that you think you won't get a reply from, like literally just asking because it won't hurt. All these things sound super obvious, but when you actually like put them into practice and start doing it very frequently, if you do these things once and you hear a no, you would maybe just, especially if you didn't want to try it any further, you're probably like, oh my gosh, like it didn't work this one time, so I shouldn't do it again. It's like, you need to try this like 10, 50, 100 times to start getting some statistical significance, right? So what I mean by this, when it comes to shooting your shot, you should be honestly somewhat delusional about what you think you're capable of doing, and I do think that actually helps you a lot in getting where you want to be. I know this is a point where some people would have some sort of imposter syndrome. I have dealt with that myself, and I think a lot of people have as well. But as long as you understand that you were going in with the best intentions and also knowing that you were going to be operating with your best foot forward, I think honestly the only person you're hurting is yourself. So that's the first thing I would start off with. The second tactic I would like to cover is giving first, right? And also giving value. So what I mean by that is all the examples that I provided previously, so working at that agency, Climbers Crag, then working for myself, and then also working for my buddy's company. For all three of those examples, what I did is, with Climbers Crag, I was unpaid, an unpaid intern for 3 months. I just learned a ton, I got pretty good at the thing, and then they started paying me. In the example with my own business, when I started like working with these personal trainer clients, I offered up a free piece of content before I even did anything paid with them. I wanted them to be super convinced that I could help them out with their problem. And then even with Lead Rush, which was the third company that I worked for, in that example too, when I first started, I was getting paid commission only and very light, like $10 per booked meeting, which it's like you're maybe making like $20 a day after like 4 hours. So it's nothing super crazy. But again, with something like that, you end up learning so much just by doing a lot. And that is like the benefit that I think that you get out of just even taking these like really like small or like what may be seen as like, some people would maybe see it like this as like almost like beneath you positions. Like you can't see it like that. You learn so much from being in positions like this and being like roles like this, and it really just helps you learn so much. Also, if there is great growth opportunities as well, giving first by like doing these things like pro bono or just ahead of time, then just allows you to go ahead and like the proof is in the pudding. Like you know how to do what you say you're gonna do because you've just done it for them enough times where they're like, wow, okay, this guy definitely knows what he wants to do. We should just pay him to do it now. Because you have to think about it from the business's perspective as well. They can't just like have someone work for them for free forever because they're just gonna lose them. And if they have someone that's already trained up on how to do the thing and they know how to do it well, then why would they lose them? Because then they have to go and find someone else that's like you to help do that thing, which is gonna be very difficult for them to do. So what I mean by that really is, again, give first, be willing to give first. It will actually help you out a lot more than you think. And when I say give value as well, this just has to do more with the actual like hiring process or maybe interview process. But I think a lot of people get stuck with the idea that like they're very interested in like, oh, I would love this job because blank. Obviously, you want the job probably to pay your bills, but also because it matters to you a lot too, because you care about the thing, right? But what I would also say too, and what I think it gets forgotten a lot in this process, is actually showcasing off how you're going to provide value to the business that you're going to be a part of. I know everyone knows memes about like, hey, I'm just here to increase shareholder value, whatever. Listen, I understand, I don't want to be tone deaf, but also you do have to understand from a business owner's perspective, you want to be able to support them in their goals, because like, why are they hiring you? It's to fulfill this need that the business needs, or it's not going to function properly. So instead of talking about how much you want the role, you talk about how much you're going to be able to help them achieve those goals. So with that in mind, again, if it's something like, oh, hey, you're going to be going into a sales position, right? You don't go in saying, I want this position because I like sales. You say like, hey, well, based off my past experience, I've been able to generate like XYZ in revenue, or I've been able to help businesses go from this place to this place based off of like my skill set. There's a ton of different ways that you can navigate this, and there are definitely going to be people online that can explain this a lot better than myself. One primary example I can think of is actually Layla Hormozi, the wife of Alex Hormozi. Very big people person, and she does a really great job explaining in a couple of her videos as to like traits that she's looking for in people that she hires. Then also if people are looking to get hired for like their dream jobs and stuff, she has a lot of great principles as well to follow. So I'd highly recommend checking out some of her videos on that, because I am not her and she's way more successful than me. So just leaving that there. Finally, what I think one of the most important things is, especially with the sea of so many people trying to find jobs and so many people saying how awful the market is and stuff, which, hey, listen, I don't discredit, and I actually empathize with a lot of people in this situation. So I do think one of the ways that can help you a lot is being unique in your approach. And what do I mean by that? So let's say, for example, if you go to apply for a job, most people would probably just go ahead and go to LinkedIn and put in their resume, and that's it, right? It's like, hey, you go to LinkedIn, okay, resume, cover letter, even cover letter, right? Okay, cool, cover letter, resume, you fill the thing on LinkedIn, boom, you send it in, okay, you're done, go on to the next one. So the issue that I have with this is that while I do agree that is the way that we've basically all have been conditioned to, apply to companies, there are better ways to do it. And by better, I mean just think about what everyone else is doing. They're probably doing exactly what you're doing, which is just going to that company's page, going to LinkedIn, and putting in that resume. The problem that I see here is that you are doing what everyone else is doing. How do you act different? How do you act unique? How do you stand out? The way that I would say that you would do that is, first up, reach out to a hiring manager. Reach out to someone that's in a role that's similar to the role that you want to get into. Get some insider information. Hey, talk to the hiring manager. Be like, hey, listen, I'm really interested in this position. I just applied. I'd be super open to hear like what you're looking for in the role, or like ways that I can maybe like modify my resume. Would you mind taking a look? Stuff like that. And listen, I don't want to sound tone deaf when I say this, but truthfully, you are gonna have people that just don't respond to you, and I get that, right? So just to be super clear, you're going to send off messages like this and you're not gonna get replies, but you just need to be okay with that. So the more you do this, the more you'll get used to how often people do and don't reply. But again, for every time that someone doesn't reply, you're just one step closer to someone actually, responding to you, reaching out, and actually providing some valuable insights to actually help boost, your personal career. So don't be afraid to show up in ways like that. And that's just one example, right? If you're somehow like, even hiring personally, I've had people that have somehow like found like my personal email or even my personal phone number and have reached out to me when I was a part of hiring at now 2 different companies. To be fair, they weren't massive companies, but still, it still just shows off that like those people that did that, I was like, whoa, these people are very invested. They actually care a lot about this. I am 100% gonna take the time out of my day for a bare minimum to at least give them a reply, but then way more likely to actually give them an interview, give them a follow-up, whatever that may be. Yeah, so a cool example I saw online of showing up uniquely is actually there is a marketer who was having trouble finding a job basically. And what he did is, again, kind of like the examples I provided previously where everyone just goes to the job website or LinkedIn, applies through there. What he did is he actually started delivering boxes of donuts to the different companies that he wanted to work for. And in doing that, what he did is he actually taped his resume to the inside of the box, and he left a note. And the note said, most resumes end up in the trash, mine will end up in your stomach. And obviously you can see from there that that is going to leave a super crazy impression on the people that receive that, obviously. And then on top of that as well, you have to understand that someone that's doing stuff like that, especially in a role like marketing, wouldn't that impress the marketing team? Wouldn't that make rounds around the office, getting people excited or being like, whoa, like this guy did this, wasn't that crazy? Wasn't that cool? Hey, we should like get into contact with him, whatever. So again, I'm not saying obviously to send a box of donuts to all the places you want to work with, but think about different ways or unique approaches that you can actually reach out to people that do make decisions around, hiring, around these roles that you're interested in. Again, ChatGPT exists as a resource. Literally just use it to figure out these things if you feel like your brain's too fried. But anyways, those are kind of the primary tactics that I wanted to talk about. And I really do think that those are going to be like the best way for you to actually get a dream job that you care about. So yeah, so what I'll do is for all those tactics I just explained, I'll just provide some quick examples as to how I actually did those things, just to also show you that I'm not blowing smoke up here. So some examples real quick. So when it comes to shooting your shot, like some ways that I've done this previously, again, I'll primarily bring up climber's crag here, is that like I would definitely say I wasn't like totally like qualified like for that position, but again, I still filled out the form anyways. I took the interviews and then I just happened to get the position. It's like that's something where it's like I had no marketing experience, I didn't know really anything about Instagram, I was just a climber and I ended up getting the role. Another example too is when I was doing this stuff for the personal trainers and then also just doing like the video editing, all that other sort of stuff. Like, I'll be honest with you as well, I had to reach out to 300 personal trainers to get 2 jobs, and they were literally just contract, like part-time jobs. But again, that's an example where I shot a lot. I really threw spaghetti at the wall to just hope that something would work out, and it did work out. Again, if you do things enough times, it's going to work out eventually. So that's just something else there on shooting your shot. On the give first side of things as well, again, for the couple examples that I provided at Climbers Crag, I interned for like 3 months unpaid. For the personal trainer thing, I provided free pieces of content before even charging them a dime. And then also for my other buddy's company, I was literally paid just the super slim commission, and that was it. It was basically I had to perform or I was not going to get paid. And then even finally, the second time I went back to Climbers Crag, I needed to sign clients on before I even got paid a salary. So again, going to a company and saying, yeah, I could definitely do these things, you show them you can do them, and then they're super stoked about it, why would they not bring you on? So again, that's kind of the giving first and also giving value as well. So for a lot of these people, they're super stoked that I'm doing these things and I'm providing huge value to the company in doing so. If that's through social media views or through free content or through just providing business or sales opportunities. Those are all ways that you can provide value and also give first in the process. And then finally, being unique in your approach. The one thing I can say is definitely when I was reaching out to all those personal trainers on Instagram, that was very difficult for me to do at the time. It was my first time really doing any sort of sales, but I can tell you wholeheartedly that me sitting there reaching out to, again, 300 personal trainers was very humbling. You get a fair bit of replies. You get maybe 10% of them will reply, but then again, that's only 30, and I got 2 jobs from it. So that means that I shot 300 messages, got nothing from 90% of them. From the 10% that I did get something from, still 90% of those people still didn't even move forward with anything. So you have to think about this pragmatically. It's just because I did all this stuff, it doesn't mean that I'm a failure or I'm not good at this stuff or whatever it may be. I mean, I would say back then I definitely was not good at that stuff, right? To be super clear. But again, it still shows that even when I wasn't that great at this sort of stuff, I was still able to land business and get clients and figure out how to actually conduct myself in a professional way. So again, when it comes to being unique, think about what that approach is. For the personal trainers, it was really easy over Instagram, but think about in your medium, whatever that job is that you're looking for, how can you show up in a cool way? Bounce some ideas off some friends. If people are in the industry and they know, ask them. Or if not, hey, you always got ChatGPT, so you can ask them too for some help. That's basically everything from top to bottom as to first off, how I got the gig, the principles I applied, and also just some good ways to think about how you want to kind of shape your future job or career and whatever that dream situation will be for you. So I really do hope this was of some help, really. I love having conversations about this sort of stuff with people. So if you are curious about anything about my personal story as to how I got here and how if I just explained anything unclear, I haven't made a video in almost a year, so this is a bit more rusty for me. But seriously, come to me. I'd be super happy to talk about it. Drop a comment. Even if you want my email, I'll even drop my personal email in the description if you want to ask me anything about this sort of stuff. I'm totally happy to discuss that further. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I really am trying to get into a groove of producing more content, that being the video essay stuff that I've done previously, or even kind of content like this. I just want to start doing more stuff in general with YouTube. So if you guys like this, I would appreciate if you liked it. Subscribe. If you want to share it with anyone that may have gotten some value out of this video, I'll also appreciate that as well. But yeah, that's basically it. I'm Cam, and take it easy. Have a good one. Bye-bye.